I'm here today to cry with you. These are powerful words. Words of love, words of compassion, words of consolation. These were the words I never heard during any of my 6 early miscarriages. But words I desperately wish someone would have said to me in the moment. So I say them to you. I am here to cry with you. If you feel you have no one that will, I will. If you have experienced the loss of a child, however far in the past, or are currently experiencing the loss of a child within early pregnancy, my heart is broken for you. This loss, no matter how many weeks, is extremely painful, mentally, physically, and spiritually. The hopeful anticipation of the beginnings of a life is brought to an abrupt halt. Sadly, as women, we are usually left alone to bear the most of this pain. To the doctors and the nurses, we are met with some cold responses sometimes. But in the moment, somehow the individuals saying the words feel they are being compassionate. Some of you may have heard the following, including, well, you can try again in a few months. Or, you were so early, you really weren't pregnant yet anyway. Or, this happens all the time. Such cold and hardened responses can make a person rethink what being pregnant or with child truly means. These above-mentioned responses only come out of a total disregard of what a life actually means in God's eyes. Yes, some of the words are facts, like this happens all the time. Well, yes, people are lost to death each day, but each death is important. People attend funerals, people cry, individuals feel empty. People come together to show their compassion. But in miscarriage, it's different, right? No, it's not. It's just that this individual was unseen. Apart from the mother or a very emotionally attuned father, most individuals cannot easily feel the pain associated to the loss of a life inside another body. An individual must have a very deep sense of compassion, like that of the mother, or sometimes a very sensitive father, who experienced the pain and excitement as they learned of the life, and then in time, watched as life passed. But really, the world should understand what the world fails to understand, and that includes multiple points on this topic. The first being the loss of the possibility of how that child could have impacted the world. Maybe that baby would have done something impactful to society. Or maybe that baby would have taught others in a way that clicked with many individuals to impact them. Maybe that baby would have cured cancer or another disease. Or maybe they would have taught the world to be more compassionate. Something the world desperately needs. The second point is no loss at any age should ever not be mourned upon. No matter the circumstances, yes, we should feel worthy to state, yes, I am suffering, and yes, I have lost someone special to me. No, I do not need depression medication because I am sad. And it is completely normal to feel sad at the loss of a human person. So what is the point of our early pregnancy loss suffering anyway? Well, in God's image, a child is conceived during conception. A pregnancy, no matter how short or long, means another soul was created for the world, the church, and eternity. Souls are not created for the purpose of this life alone, but of the heavenly kingdom of God. Your unique child, with all the unique traits of mother and father, was and is created for all eternity. In the Divine Intimacy by Father Gabriel, he writes, the ancient texts state that the Church is the mother of all the living, and her dignity increases with the number of her children. This is on page 196, if you want to look it up. So in my opinion, and not in contradiction with our church, I believe we as mothers increase our capacity to love with each pregnancy within our body, just as the church thereby increases as additional lives are brought into the body of Christ. Pregnancy allows us to find ourselves through love. It does not matter how long that beginning to life lasts on earth. What matters is that it is a life. Did you know that our beautiful church has the most extraordinary definition of love? To love means to will the good of another. This description is brought to us by St. Thomas Aquinas, and it was spoken so many years ago. Also, do you know what compassion actually means? First, let's start with what it does not mean. Compassion is not meant as the momentary passing pain that one individually feels for another within a solitary state. That is not compassion, even in its most basic form. My all-time favorite quote on compassion comes from a wonderful priest who just exudes peace. I believe it is the type of peace that you would have felt if you were in the presence of Jesus. Complete love, compassion, understanding, and peace, all exuding from him just by being in his presence. He is a family friend and runs an abode of peace in English, but in India, it's Shanti Dan. He is part of the Francilian Initiative in South India. He lives a life inspired by the life of Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. His name is Father Swami, and my favorite quote on compassion from him that I have fallen in love with is this: compassion is to walk in the misery of the other, to alleviate their sufferings despite one's own pain. How beautiful and raw that definition is. Yes, we can feel pain and still reach out in compassion for others. And it is by our suffering that we are called to do this, to reach out and say, yes, I choose to be empathetic. I understand and I choose to feel with you, your pain, as we both heal together. This brings me back to the words I've heard said from my own lips to people in my life. You just don't understand. Well, yes, they didn't understand because they failed to say in response to my response, well, help me understand. Let me stay with you and be brought into an understanding. Yes, we are, as humans, sometimes too quick to just allow people to be within their own sufferings alone because we accept the response from others that they're fine if they snap back with a response as such. We walk away when we really should stay and beg to be brought into the light of understanding, compassion, grief, and love. Sometimes, though, we are only left with compassion on a purely animalistic level. Although animals are not choosing to be compassionate, they mimic compassion because they choose to be with us when humans sadly walk away. Animals can give us the compassion we desire in the times of distress because they choose to be with us. The word compassion is defined as sympathetic pity and concern for the suffering or misfortune of others. In Latin, compassion comes from the root words of come, together, and pati, to suffer. So easily, our pets can do this as they sit with us and just let us cry and be with us in our suffering. Although a pet should not be more compassionate than a human, sometimes, for a lack of understanding of learning to be the best human being that each person can be, pets are there for us when we are alone in our suffering. We can find ourselves through our suffering and compassion by the process of loving others and in the accepting a child, whether that created child was planned for and tried for, a surprise gift of life, or a consequence of an act of pain, of passion, or pain. An act of passion or pain. God creates and allows life to be both given and lost in many different and unique circumstances. So this is what I just cannot understand. If miscarriage is actually 1 out of every 4 pregnancies, then a majority of women would have experienced one in their lives. And they then should be willing to feel with and be sensitive to those who are of childbearing age, who are around them, who are having those miscarriages. Though quite the opposite is true. It is a silent suffering, one that is and was unspoken about for so many years. In the past, it is time for it to end being silent. We need to speak up and speak about it and feel. We need to show our love as human beings, capable of love, and bring ourselves into that caring understanding. It is so easy to show up at someone's door, even though so many people won't, and deliver a meal. It is harder to come inside and listen and see another person cry and stay knowing and being present with them in their moments of pain. But most people cannot bring themselves to feel with another because they feel fear instead of exuding love. Before we get into the books, I would like to remind you that each life is a gift from God. The following has been pondered intently by me from a funeral mass homily of a dear friend and priest, Monsignor Father Missel, that helped me to get through the initial pain of one of my most recent miscarriages. Not every gift is allowed to be opened immediately after receiving it. Many gifts are stored away from us, even if we know they exist, until the time is right. We may know that the time that the gift is meant to be given, but that time may pass so slowly as we wait for the moment of unwrapping to begin. We cannot hold on to the gift any longer than God allows, because that would be selfish in itself. We must let God decide within His wisdom to keep the gift for another moment that we may not be privy to know at that time. God has given this child as a gift of love. We are meant to appreciate the life every day that we are privileged to hold the gift, the unopened gift, until the final day when we are privileged to see inside the unwrapping. A baby lost in miscarriage is a gift that will have to wait to be opened until the next life. Mary is now entrusted to caring for that soul, and that soul will rejoice the day the baby gets to behold your soul's presence with them in the next life. So be patient, my friend, and allow this waiting period to unite you closer to our heavenly home, where I believe all miscarried souls that an individual willed to be baptized dwell in heaven in peace and eternal happiness. God's mercy is vast, and his mercy is what he wants the world to know through suffering, as he did for us all. Let us not forget what life means for him. It means more souls for heaven, not souls to just dwell on the earth. So thank God, even in times of pain, for it is better to love and loss than have never to love at all. Being open to life means we as mothers are choosing to cooperate in God's plan for creating many future souls. Mary's openness to God's plan for her life certainly did not include a pregnancy, and to ever think she would be with child at a future time. From what we know about Jewish law, Mary was consecrated to God, meaning she was never to know a man intimately. Her trajectory was to learn to serve the church as a child, and then later in life, in her teenage years, she was to be married and live amongst a family, to care for that family, but never have her own child. If you would like to read more about what Mary's life was as a consecrated temple virgin, and how St. Anne's and Joachim's daughter was consecrated to the temple at just 3 years old, please check out the book entitled The Life of the Blessed Virgin Mary by Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich. So the question remains, how does our church support us in our pregnancy loss journey for the loss of our deeply loved but unseen child? Our church, though often unspoken, provides funeral rites for all stages of loss of a baby within pregnancy. We do not have to be alone in our suffering. Whether we do not have the support of a family, of our family, or we do not, or we cannot have the support of our church, we must still seek it out. We must seek it out, or it may be lost to us. So I ask you, when you are ready, name your baby. This took my husband and I some time, some years, but we have named all of our lost children, both a boy and a girl's name, and we display their names within a heart above where our family pictures are in our bedroom. In recent years, we have also purchased a small saint statue for our living room for each of our children that have gone on to meet God, as a constant physical reminder of them within our home. In addition to naming your baby, call your church and ask them if your priest will schedule a time to have a funeral loss service said for your child. If they do not know what you are referring to, please do not fault them. This is not well known, even to local priests, as it should be. So call the diocese, call another church, a Catholic church. Some of the books mentioned below have funeral rites in them, and all the priest has to do is read the words. If your priest is unwilling, and I am truly sorry if they are, call another Catholic parish. You will find a priest that will, and I pray God leads you to the right one for your family. If possible, and I understand in the moment this may not even be possible, but collect the products of conception to vary. No, it's not morbid. The baby's body exists somewhere in those remains. If we did not know this, or are just learning of this after the fact, do not blame yourself. Forgive yourself if you have allowed the doctors to dispose of what they call the medical waste. Because unless we have a very understanding person with us, most of us are thinking only of saving the life and not what we will do with the remains. Because the remains may only appear as blood. We can think of Mary in the movie The Passion, where she lays on the ground to soak up all of Christ's blood after he was whipped. She knelt down. She did not let any of it be missed. We do not know if this has happened, but it's a powerful scene. This is what we can do also. But also forgive yourself if you did not. Please, if I have learned my mind was not in a place to think of this till long after the fact. We can also look to obtain a certificate of life that can commemorate the life of a miscarried baby. You can ask a faithful Catholic to be the spiritual godparents of your miscarried baby also. After all, the purpose of God's godparents is to pray for the child, not to buy them gifts. So ask someone compassionate to be the child's spiritual godparent. You can even ask a priest or a nun, as I have found, and it is a wonderful way to easily find a godparent. There are multiple books written in recent years on the topic of miscarriage, and I will list all the ones that I have found valuable. The first one is The Hope and Salvation of Infants Who Die Without Being Baptized. It is a wonderful book that was put together by the International Theological Commission in 2007. This is an indispensable resource. In here, it says that the Church entrusts to God's mercy those infants who die unbaptized. We as parents can will the baptism of our children, even if we physically were not able to perform the baptism for our child. We cannot doubt that God understands our intent. This next book describes this in great detail, and it is a book I only found after my most recent miscarriage. I felt her compassion for my situation through her words on each and every page. If only each diocese would have someone like Dr. Jorgensen. Her book, A Catholic's Guide to Miscarriage, Stillbirth, and Loss, is invaluable and worth the purchase. She lists many resources that I've mentioned above, but scrambled to find through my own pain. For picture books for little children, I recommend Love You Forever. You may think this is your typical children's book, but the author was a father who with his wife lost 2 babies that were stillborn. He repeats throughout the book, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." This silent poem was only whispered words of comfort within his own mind for his own children, and it has gone on to sell over 15 million copies. And this book was first published before I was even born in 1986. Another, more recent book is a new one entitled Jellybean, A Baby's Journey to God by Holy Heroes. This book is a great understanding for children, what a lost life means to their own family, as well as to God. But again, this includes a stillborn baby. Regardless, it has made me cry as my children asked me to read it for them. It also lists some of the funeral prayers for lost children in the back. Then there is the Rosary Companion, entitled, Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, and it helps you to meditate on the life of your child while praying the Rosary and uniting your suffering with Mary. I want to leave you with a description that I found in the Magnificat. Psalm 90, verse 12 states that, make us know the shortness of our life, that we may know wisdom of heart. It goes on in the description to say, a human life may sometimes look too short to be worth much, but God, who sees the works of his hands from the perspective of enduring love, clothes even the passing wildflowers with splendor. We are only dust, but beloved dust. May you feel strengthened by these words, and I hope you feel you could cry with me as we feel the pain of the loss of each of our own unique children, with hope and faith that we will one day meet them again within the fulfillment of God's design. You will be with me in my